and talk to Mark Sleboda, who's political analyst for Russia Today. Thank you so much for joining us. We were listening to the Prime Minister David Cameron in the House of Commons here. He was saying the weight of evidence is that the Malaysian Airlines plane was shot down by pro-Russian separatists with this SA-11 missile. Is there any acceptance there that that is where the evidence is taking us?
Well, I certainly can't concur. If the evidence he is referring to is the same evidence that the U.S. State Department is referring to, they're talking about clips of military vehicles somewhere on country roads that have been posted on YouTube and various pieces of information gathered off of social media. And frankly, if when I was doing my postgraduate at the London School of Economics, I had cited that as a source, I would have been laughed out of my dissertation. So I think that the information that the Russian military defense ministry has just released, showing before and after satellite images of a Ukrainian Su-25 fighter flying at the same altitude and the same speed close behind the MH17 Malaysian airliner, and that there were two active operating Ukrainian military manned Buk anti-aircraft systems on the ground, really shows us real evidence.
That has been totally denied by the Ukrainian president. Just in the last few minutes, they simply say that is not true what the Russian Defense Ministry has said. So
yes.
You deny all of the various intercepts that we've seen, the fact that those pro-Russian separatists have been the people who've been shooting down planes. None of that registers at all in terms of the build-up of evidence on the ground.
Well, certainly. You have to ask yourself about motivation, capability, opportunity, and the determined willpower to murder innocent civilians. And from what we have seen, we can see clearly that the rebels have demonstrated none, or perhaps one of these characteristics. They might have had the opportunity, if not the capability. But the regime in Kiev has the motivation to discredit the Eastern Ukrainian Self-Defense Forces and the Russian government. They have the capability, fighters, and 27 Buk anti-ship systems.
Okay, if you won't accept that, let me ask you a separate question, because we were hearing the American president just speaking. Would you accept it is an outrage that those separatists won't give free access to those international investigators, those people trying to actually retrieve bodies for all of those families? The president saying that's an absolute insult to those families. Would you at least accept that that actually should not be happening on the ground from the separatists?
But that actually isn't happening on the ground. The international inspectors, the International Civil Aviation Organization, the Malaysian Airlines Authority's inspectors have been held up in Kiev for 2 days. There have been 4 days there were bodies rotting in the sun on the ground. The crime scene is in the middle of a war zone that the Ukrainian regime is launching an offensive in that area right now with airstrikes and heavy artillery, destroying much of the crime scene. And these inspectors, the real international inspectors, we're not talking about the Organization for Security Cooperation in Europe, because they have no qualities, no credentials, and they don't have neutrality in this situation.
Okay, so you don't accept...
They're literally not allowed.
I understand that. You don't accept that in terms of what the separatists are currently doing at the crash site. You don't accept any of the evidence that so far has emerged. I mean, you at Russia Today, are you simply a mouthpiece for President Putin?
Are you simply a mouthpiece for the government of David Cameron?
Do you not accept at all what the president has said, the prime minister has said, the evidence that has built up, what is actually happening on the ground?
No, I think we're operating from a completely different set of evidence. I don't accept anything that your president or government has said of what's happening there. And I'm an American citizen and a U.S. military veteran who studied in the United Kingdom, not a Russian mouthpiece.
And just a final thought about sanctions that are being talked about. Do you think that will have any effect on the Russian president? Because both, again, President and Prime Minister talking about now is the time for Russia to change tack.
If the Russian president changed tack when he clearly has information that what really happened in this situation was that the Ukrainian regime shot down this airliner, I think the Russian people would kick him out of office.
Okay, there we have to leave it. Mark Sleboda, thank you very much for joining us here on BBC
Thank you
News.
so much.
Now, we'll look in a